Hey everyone, and welcome to a new stream here with Crystallize. I'm your host, Brendan, and today I'm joined with Håkon, who is our head of engineering here at Crystallize as well.
Hello.
And today we'll be talking about how we can speed up our Next.js websites by actually removing JavaScript. So, Håkon, why would I actually want to remove JavaScript? It seems like I'm using a JavaScript framework, right?
Yeah.
Why would I? It seems a bit counterintuitive.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. So why would you? So all of the big frameworks we see today for client side rendering for front end applications like Next, Gatsby, you got Nux with Vue, got Remix now as a new contender, are heavily based on JavaScript, and parts of the JavaScript is run on the build time and server. And then a whole bunch of it is run on the client side, and it gives you wonderful things as a developer, because you get those, you get the hydration of your app. You're getting that fully fledged React on the client, so you can do whatever you want to do, which is awesome. This is the thing we've always been wanting to have ever since React was launched. Back then, it was only a client side thing. So we've been pursuing the server thing for a while, and today the landscape is radically different than it was 5 years ago. Now we have this power of both server-side rendering and client-side. So it's just we want JavaScript because it gives us a lot of power, right? So yeah. The question you asked was, why do we want to remove it? Well, if we remove it, we also remove a lot of power. We remove a lot of the tools we have in our toolbox to do things on the client side.
True, yeah.
So to answer that, it's quite simple. The power comes with a cost. And the cost is usually inflicted upon the user of your website. And some pages, some sites might not be as interactive as other sites and might not need that much power. So there are other ways to do things. So the real answer is you want to remove JavaScript because you want to improve speed.
Right. So I guess the traditional way of having like a React app, for example, would be that it's all client side, and that has the downside of you have all, like on the client, you have to download and sort of process everything, which takes time to load, and it takes time to be interactive as well.
Yep.
But then with server side, of course, you're speeding up that load time for the user, but there's still some time for the interactivity to come along. Is that a case? And then,
Yep.
And then that's sort of what we want to solve with reducing or removing the JavaScript from the framework.
Yeah, pretty much. So with an SSR, like a server-side rendered page or a statically generated page, the entire web page itself is served to the user immediately, and it contains all of the content that the user wants to get. It might be, so we're Crystallized, so we're typically within product e-commerce and stuff like that. So that the typical example for us is to look at this product listing, product page, and the server-side rendered page has the product image, it has the price, it has the description, layout is all there, everything that the user needs. Now, the client-side rehydration of the framework, like Next or Gatsby or Nux or whatever, will attempt to recreate that entire page, everything from top to bottom, and remaking every bit of it in the client browser, and then eventually replacing that server-side rendered page with a newly created dynamic page that's been recreated from scratch, but it's exactly the same as the old one. And we replace the old sort of dead page, which is just static, with this new one, which we created from scratch on the client. And then from that point onwards, the page will act as a single page application, essentially speeding up things like page transitions. You can
Right.
make elements on the page come alive, with JavaScript. And this process typically doesn't take a whole lot of time for powerful devices on fast connections.
Yeah.
So as a developer, you typically don't get to experience the pre-hydrated phase of the web page. You always
True.
get to interact with the already hydrated and wonderfully magical single page application.
Yeah, but I guess like you're saying, if you have users who are in other parts of the world, or just on worse connections or older devices, then they might experience some drawbacks in regards to the speed, basically.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be very unfamiliar territory. You might be traveling, right? And you might be on a airport, sharing Wi-Fi with thousands of other people. And airport Wi-Fi's are typically not fast. So your phone on that airport would typically load things a lot slower, and the hydration would happen later in time. So if you build websites heavily relying on the framework to be hydrated and available, you might slow things down for your users, essentially making parts of your page inaccessible.
Right. Yeah. That's it's definitely not a nice thing to experience, and of course that can really impact getting users to come back to your site as well.
It would. So if you have an e-com site, for instance, and your product page is reliant on the framework to be hydrated and ready, and all JavaScript magic to be available, then stuff like the buy button won't work unless you have the framework ready and hydrated. And the problem then is the user will be served a static page from the server, looking perfectly fine, and if for some reason the connection is really slow, or they decide to get this product, I want to buy this immediately, and if the buy button doesn't work, they'll maybe try a few times, and then it's just going to leave your site, look for another shop that might have it, because they figure this particular shop didn't work. It's easy enough to try another one.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this site is broken. I guess I can't check out here.
Yep.
Next one it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is kind of sad, because it's not uncommon for sites to not work.
Yeah,
I've seen it a lot.
Yeah, they're all over the place, but But so, we do have a demo here to show, right, of how we can actually go through this process of removing this sort of framework-based JavaScript, and how we can replace it with something that's a bit more friendly to the end user.
Yeah, so let's get things clear. There's plenty of ways to achieve different experiences for the user. One of them is to build your website so that it can function without usage of this whole fully hydrated framework. So if you use, for instance, Remix, that stuff is built in by hand by default if you just follow their recommended patterns. And different frameworks solve this in a different way. So what the example we have today is for Next.js, which a lot of people are using. And with Next.js, you kind of have to get the sweet, hydrated Next.js framework available before you can do any fancy stuff, right? So this experiment will be, well, how can we do this without the help from the framework?
Exactly. Yeah. And do you want to show us this? It's our conference boilerplate that we showed in the stream last time. But do you want to show us that a little bit and see the code? Great.
Yeah. Let me share some stuff with you. I got the repository here. You can get that too. You can clone that through our CLI. And
Yeah,
am I
all
showing
of these links. Yeah, all of these links will be in the description for the video.
Good.
By the way.
Yeah, good. So essentially, the conference boilerplate comes with a front end, back end. We'll be looking at the front end now. It's available at conference-superfast.shop, so you can try this out yourself during the stream. And I've done a quick speed test on this just to see how it performs, and it's not doing bad, but it could have done things a bit better. And we see that, for instance, the total blocking time here is a bit high. It's indicated as red, which tells me that well, the framework is rehydrating and it takes a bit of time. And I've got a version of the boilerplate on my own Vercel account, my personal one as well. So this is the one we'll be using now. And the same speed is indicated here, the same results. So this is what we will be using for the sake of this experiment. Now, you can see traces of Next.js. I'm going to show some network tab here, or maybe not that. You can see traces of Next here in the script section. These are the scripts for the Next pages. And there's also this little thing here called Next Data, which is the entire data set for this current page. This is what Next.js needs to rehydrate the page client side and recreate all of the elements you can see here in React on the client, which it has done now. So if I navigate further on, just workshop access, that covers tickets. Oh, there we go. Oh, that was just, I was clicking something off. Merge store? Oh, here we go. Merge store. Go to network. And we'll see. It's a bit big. I don't want the waterfall, but I would like the type. Yeah, see, the first one is the document. This was fetched from the server. And the next bit, like this merge page here, was just a fetch for the data and JavaScript to replace. So it's really just server side in the beginning, and then single page app later. So
right.
Navigations are obviously really fast. But the point here is also that the initial document is fast too, because it's cached on CDN level. So you can hit that refresh button a lot of times, and it's super duper fast. And what I showed you here, the Next data, along with all the JavaScript that it has, takes up a lot of download resources. So these are shared chunks among different pages. These are the JavaScript for this page. And if we go back to network, we can even see that we can filter for scripts, JS. You'll see here it's 12 out of 43 requests. Looks like there's a lot of it. And the size, if you do a empty cache and hard reload here, we'll see how much of it is.
Should be quite a lot.
Yeah, I can see here 655 kilobytes out of 913 transferred. So this is a whole lot. And even so, parts of it is even embedded within the HTML, right? So if we go back to body, you'll see here, so this chunk here, Next data, is even part of the body.
Yeah.
So that means in order to recreate from scratch, we need all of these, most of these JavaScript files, plus the data within the HTML page. So let me just get all unsaid. So the HTML page itself is 24 kilobytes. So the goal here is to evaluate and see, can we turn off the hydration of Next.js here? And what would happen? What would we lose?
Yeah.
And we would obviously lose all SPA functionality, but also any interactive element that's on the page. And if you look at this page, there's not a whole lot of interactive elements. These are just links. And this image, there's only one real interactive element, and that's if you, on the mobile phone, you get this button here, which will, if you go bigger, it will just, it hides these links. If you go down again, that's what you get.
So this whole mobile nav, if we just disabled or didn't send through this data now, we'd just lose this mobile nav functionality pretty much.
Yeah.
Without any workarounds for us.
True. So we can try that out. So we did a blog post about this, and we talked about how to use this with Next.js. I'm not sure if we told you how. Okay, we didn't. So I can show you now. You can go Next.js. It's still experimental. Runtime.js is what it's called. Where is it now? I got it on my other screen. Give me, don't I? Right. So it's the index. Let's see if I can remember this. Right, here we go. So it's essentially a config here. I think it's config. I believe. Give me a second. I'm gonna quickly cheat and because we're using this in a different project. You see. This is per page configuration, not a whole, not one for your whole thing. It's really just for each page, which is good. It's granularity. You can decide which ones get it and which ones don't.
So it gives you full control over if you want like a really fast landing page, but you want something, you've got another page which needs a bit more interactivity or a bit more complex, then you can still keep that.
Yeah, exactly. So I was right. It was export const config here, and it's called unstable runtime.js. The default setting for this is it's true because you want the runtime in a lot of cases, but in this experiment, we're going to turn off the runtime and see what it does. I'm not even going to deploy just locally. I'm just going to go get this directly to prod and see. All right, it's building. I can stop it. And while we do so, I can test it out locally so you can see what it happens. So now it's important to note what's happening locally too. Now, I've turned off the runtime according to the config. But if you check out the local development version here, you'll see that we still get next data. What is this? Now, the reason for this is it's in development mode like this, it's always going to be runtime.js, no matter what. So the only way to test this locally is to do a yard build and create a production level ready build of the project and then run that. That will not have the runtime.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty much all it does. Yeah. So what we can do, I can go and check my latest deployment here. I think it's this one. Yeah. All right. So if I reload this page now, we'll see it's acting a bit differently. I'll just empty cache in the bottom. Right. So check this out. Some things have happened here. If you check for JavaScript stuff, all you can see is my current plugins. This is React DevTools, which is because I have that in my plugins, so it's kind of stupid to show that. But anyways, you see in the actual HTML that's being said, we no longer have the next data, so that, which means the if you go all here, you see the document has reduced its size from 24 kilobytes to 20. And that's pretty much it. The page is pretty much exactly like before.
Yeah.
This is identical. And if you click a link, go schedule. This was just a link to that. What did I close? It's merch.
Merch, yeah.
Merch store. Now that's still pretty fast. You're getting a full document reload though, but it's still fast and it will work regardless of you have your runtime or not. Yeah. Now, this dude here does not work. I'm clicking now, by the way. Nothing's happening. So that's what you're missing. So there's no use state, there's no use effect if you use React, there's just none of that. So in order for you to have a working site, you need to have a different path for your interactive elements. And of course, if you have a lot of interactive elements, then maybe this isn't your right choice of action. Maybe you should do something else. There are frameworks that do this a bit differently, but we're looking at Next now. So let me show you how to fix this. You have to find, of course, the place where you had the previous locally working version. And here we go. This is the nav. It has a icon button, which is this dude here. And when you click it, then you do on menu click. And that just sets the show menu, which is really just for mobile. The menu itself that we want to show is this one. And this is how it works. So if the status show menu is true, we're going to add this attribute data desktop only. I'm sorry, all the way around. If it's showing, we're going to remove it, and then essentially showing it for mobile too. So if I go here and I check out, this is the one. It has this attribute data desktop only. So if I remove that, we should see the menu pop up. Yeah. So it should be fairly simple to toggle this. And I can show you how you could. There's a couple of different ways of how we can do it. The most common way, or the most sort of web standard way of doing this is to actually have a script that can be loaded as part of the head request. So let's just do that.
So by that you mean just some vanilla JS, pretty much?
Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty much. So let's make a public folder, and let's make a file called mobile menu.js. And we can just make that alert hello for now. Just make sure that it works.
Classic.
And that very good. And this, obviously, we only want this to be shown whenever the navigation is shown, right? So what we will do, I'm just going to wrap the whole nav in a fragment. I want to access the document head. So I can by using next/head. So if I go here, and then make a reference to the mobile menu.js. And I can make that load immediately, or I can just say it's going to be deferred loading. This just depends on how you want to deal with it. But
Yeah.
I believe that's how public folder and next works. Let's just see. It's going to be here. Now, I need to reload, though, to get this to work. And I need to start it, of course. Start dev. This will run alongside the framework, though. It's going to be a bit weird. But that's okay. So mobile. Yeah, so that didn't work. It got a 404, I suppose. Probably shows here. Yeah, 404. Maybe, is it under public? I don't know how this works.
What does
no
public need to be outside of the source folder, perhaps?
Oh, maybe. You're right. Like this. Well, let's try it. Oh yeah, and then not like this.
Nice.
Oh, hello. Nice. Good. Hello, script. All right. Now, at this point, you are back to the basics. You're alone in the wild landscape of vanilla JavaScript, and this is going to be for newcomers who've only dealt with frameworks. This is going to feel a bit different than working within the realms of the framework. But it's really simple stuff that we're doing. So really what we want to do, we want to register all clicks here and toggle this attribute. That should be it. So first thing we can do is to find a way to target this. And obviously a very good way is to provide it with an ID. This is the mobile menu button. And you can query that by using document query selector, or get document or get element by ID. But I'm just going to go with this because you can use your CSS syntax for that. Right. This is your button. You can log that out too. And I'm going to just remove hello. Now, you're not going to get hot module reloading now, because this is a static file. So this is, back to refreshing. Developer experiences, so-so, maybe not the best in the world, but remember what we're trying to do here. We're doing this for the user. And when I do a script like this and it's unwrapped like this, you can actually see here globally, I now have button. This is what I did here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the first rule here. Try to not bleed stuff into the global namespace. So what we can do is do something like this. To have an anonymous function execute and then just, do our magic within there. So now you will see there's nothing called button. So cool. Button. And then what we do? Well, we want to add an event listener. I want to check when it's clicked. And then I want to toggle the menu. It's really what I want to do. We can do a function as well. Then toggle. Simple enough. So by
Nice.
Now, whenever I click this, we should get the log out. Let's just do that. Yeah. And now it's going to work because we have the runtime JavaScript, right?
Yeah, but if we actually built it and then ran the production version, we wouldn't have that.
No, exactly. Now, you might not want to have both, because if you want to have a fallback, let's say you want to deal with the mobile menu in a native vanilla way, you might not want to do the framework way. So I'm actually going to remove that now, because that's never going to be helpful.
True.
Gone with that. This is always going to be desktop show only because I will use my script to remove it. And then this will be gone too. Good.
So now I just won't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing happens now. And now I know already that this has an ID of links. So it's easy enough to do the next one. I'll just do document, query selector, links. And then it's sort of to the attributes now. You can find out if it has an attribute. So let's just store this in a variable. There we go. So if menu has an attribute called data. What is it? Data show. Right, data. That's probably. Then that means I'm gonna show it. That is really just a menu attribute. It's a set attribute. Set that to true. But we're gonna say it's false. Wait.
Other way around, isn't it?
Other way around. We actually want to remove it entirely. A selector just checks if it's there. That's pretty much the gist of it. If you reload now, you'll see exciting. Yay!
Nice.
Fantastic. And does it hide? Yeah, it does. So we're back. So it's a bit more boilerplate code, but all in all, it's not a whole lot.
Yeah, and it gives you a lot faster speed in terms of the overall page. So worth it.
Yeah, I think it is. And these are links to the page apparently within the page. So there's a second thing we need to do here, which is when you click the link within these, we need to hide the menu. So we can do that as well. Make a function of this, toggle menu. Show. Show. That's probably not do though. Think about this for a second, but so if I want to be able to run this function here like this, just toggles the menu. And I want to be able to give it, I want to also be able to run it with the explicit command of what do I want to do? Is it show or hide?
Right. Yeah.
So if type of show, if you don't have anything, then show must be equal or whatever state, I suppose. Show. Must be something like this. Toggle it to whatever it had or not had. Let's just try this. I'm getting confused. Nothing is happening. Why not? Now, the cool thing you can do is obviously debugger this. Fantastic. So what is that? It has show. Ooh. We can continue here and say show is oh, of course, it's the other way around. Could have prepared the script in advance, though. It wouldn't be as fun. All right, cool. So that works. And now for all of the links within here, if you just click one of them, I just want to hide the menu, right?
Yeah.
So we can do that as well. That's the button here. And we can go from within the menu. We can then again do query selector. Query selector all. A. And then you can add event listener. Say on click. You want to do toggle menu. You do not want to show it.
Yeah.
Holding two things. If we click speakers now. Oh, wait. Oh. Yeah. I'm getting an error because when you do document query selector all, I can do this here as well. Or query selector all. I can do A here, for instance. You get all of the links on the page. You get a node list back. And a node list is kind of like an array, and you cannot do stuff like add event listener directly. You can do map though. No. Okay. What we need to do is to transform this to an array. We can do array from. That gives us a workable array. These are some of the quirks that you need to work around.
The joys of vanilla JS.
Yeah. All right. So A, add event listener. Good. And then add a second one like that. Should be fine.
Yeah.
So for each of them, you just want to listen for clicks. All right. Speakers, that works. Cool.
I guess the only thing is the hamburger icon isn't following us down. But
that's true. That's true. Now, but we didn't have that for the runtime either, though.
No.
This is just how it works.
Yeah.
But that's easily doable as well. Now we have a way for this to work. Now I wonder, what do we gain from all this? Let's try it out. I'm going to push this up to Vercel, and we're going to try out how this will perform. And what I'm hoping to see is, of course, getting the performance speed up, closing it into 100. Let's see what we can get. But what we already know, it's that we're downloading a whole lot of less of resources. We're adding one extra script. It's 26 lines of JavaScript. And that must be much more performant than whatever was there before. Because we're not rebuilding the entire application. We're really just making that little button interactive, hydrating only that. And I have to mention, while this is building, there is on Next.js, you'll see here, Next.js 12.1 was introduced a month ago or so, and they have alpha support for React 18 and server components. Now, this has the promise of creating components that are only for only on the client side and only on the server side, which means you can, for some point in the future, when this is sort of stable, you can indicate which part of your applications needs to rehydrate and which ones don't. So let's see for how long you need to do sort of dance around that like we do now. Okay, anyways, this one doesn't work. If I refresh, should it be deployed? See, yeah, look at that. It's working. Cool, man. So now the next bit is, how does it perform? So I want to do a page speed on exactly the same page. Now you can do this on webpagetest.org. You can do Lighthouse in your browser too. It's really available. It's here. You can do a performance audit.
Nice, yeah.
It's really simple. Now it does take your plugins and so into consideration. So be sure to run this at non, stuff. So you look at this. So I've got my Chrome extension giving me penalties here. So yeah, you need to run this outside. So like in a incognito mode will work. Check this out. So we've gone from 88 to 96 by really simple measures. The biggest change now, there's zero blocking time. So people viewing this page will see there's going to be no lag, no buttons will not work. Obviously, if buttons are relying on framework, they won't work. But in our case, we fixed that with the script. And this is a different experience. And this is something I believe it's worth evaluating. Consider the impact it has on your page, because some pages are not that interactive. And if you have a page that kind of looks like this, where just a few buttons here and there, not doing much, then this is going to be quite a significant improvement in speed, especially if your page is long and you have a lot of things on it. So I have a good example for that too. Go to Crystallize. We have a newly released blog. I think we did. Didn't we do that? Well, all of our blog posts are long, but this one here is particularly long. Yeah. So the more you have, the more the client needs to rehydrate and rebuild from scratch. And if you have a super long page like this, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna take a long time. So the improvements here, the benefits are greater the bigger the page is. I like this.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. Like if you have, say, a blog, for example, with a lot of content, but not much in the way of interactivity, then that would be a great use case for this, or just static generation overall, of course. But
yeah, definitely. It does require you as a developer, though, to jump through some hoops and do stuff. And there are, this is, I would advise people that currently are on Next and have a very simple site, there's not a lot of interactivity, you could benefit from this immediately. But if you have a lot of interactivity, you might want to go with something different approach. And if you haven't started a project yet, if you're about to begin on a bigger project and you want to have both, the best of both worlds, there are also other frameworks that can help you achieve that. One of which is focused really on this, is Astro Build. I think they have a website called that. Yeah. But this is essentially the where they have where you can isolate parts of your page, identifying which ones are interactive and which ones are not. And then the interactive parts will be the only ones that are hydrated.
Nice.
Yep. I think that's all I wanted to share from my screen. We can chat for the rest.
Great. Yeah. I mean, that seems to be a great overview. I mean, as we talked about in the beginning, of perhaps what this entails, like why it's good to get rid of this framework-based JS in some cases, obviously not all the cases, as we talked about. But yeah, and then of course the demo has been really sort of insightful and really straightforward, I think, at least, to follow how you do that, especially for the nav, which I think is probably one of the more perhaps common UI components that you'll be dealing with if you do this approach, like getting that mobile nav to appear, disappear without that standard sort of approach. So yeah.
Now we can also mention though that this is not only good for users who is on slow networks and whatnot. I mean, having great performance also boosts your SEO ranking, or your SERP, search engine ranking, and it helps the environment too, because you're essentially sending the last bytes over the wire, which is good for everybody. And in Crystallize, we're all about performance, and this is one really performant way of doing things. So, but yeah, this is it's a quite a radical approach, but people do it. Large companies do it. For instance, our own website does it.
Yeah.
So it's totally possible to have a lively page doing a lot of cool stuff, but removing the runtime.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's as you mentioned, super good to have for the user and for the environment. And yeah.
Yep. All right.
Perfect. Well, I think that this is a good place to wrap things up then. I mean, it's been great to have you on and sort of show us through all of this. It's been super insightful.
Cool.
And yeah, it's a really useful set of techniques I think everyone can benefit from. So yeah, thank you, Håkon, for coming along to show us how to do this. And thank you all for joining us in the stream today. Of course, all of the links relating to the demo for this boilerplate, for example, the documentation, the blog post, etc., will be in the description for the stream as well. But yeah, thank you all for joining, and we'll see you in the next stream.